From believing the media to taking responsibility for your own thinking. A personal essay. For many years of my life, the media was my most important source of knowledge. News, talk shows, newspapers, they shaped my worldview. I never doubted it. And yet, at some point, I started to get this quiet, uncomfortable feeling. Something isn't right. Contradictions became apparent. How could two planes bring down 3 skyscrapers on September 11, 2001? Yes, WTC-7 also collapsed. Either the laws of physics apply, or the narrative is not true. Both cannot be true at the same time. For the first time, I realized that doubt is not a sign of stupidity, but of responsibility. I felt the same way during the pandemic. Why was hardly anyone talking about how to strengthen the immune system? About nutrition, exercise, vitamin D, sunlight? Instead, fear, numbers, pressure. The more I asked, the more contradictions emerged. I began to suspect, what if the media is not as independent as we believe? What if it serves certain interests, consciously or unconsciously? The pharmaceutical industry needs sick people, preferably chronically ill, for higher profits. The arms industry needs a real or artificial enemy, conflicts or war. This is not a conspiracy theory, but the logic of profit. Weren't there times in history when the media and politics fundamentally deceived the citizens, thereby enabling World War II and genocide? Couldn't something like that happen again? What security systems do we have in place? I realized that I must be vigilant and critical so that this does not happen again. That is my great responsibility. You don't have to be a genius to recognize simple connections. These powerful corporations are publicly traded, and they too must grow. Growth requires demand. And in this case, demand requires fear. Isn't fear constantly being created with ever-changing topics? But fear does not awaken us. It makes us sick, docile, and manipulable. I now live freely, trusting that everything will happen as it needs to for development, sometimes even pain, and I am no longer afraid. Not even of death. I recognized the mechanisms of propaganda. Constant repetition. Exaggeration. Omitting crucial information. Demonizing critical voices. Defaming uncomfortable truths. And an endless succession of new topics to instill fear. In my search for answers, I came across independent journalism. Media that is not dependent on corporations, states, or major donors, but exclusively on its readers. The reporting there was different, more nuanced, more cautious, more objective, separating opinion and information, citing sources, and also focusing on good and healthy living. Not everything was pleasant, but it was honest. At first, it was a great shock and consternation. To realize that there is deliberate manipulation and that not everyone wants what is good and beautiful. That there is power that is not visible. But wasn't it naive to assume that this was not the case? Perhaps that is why people live in this illusion for so long, because it is comfortable. For a while, I looked intensely into these abysses of human behavior. It wasn't an easy phase. But in the process, I realized something crucial. Not everyone goes along with it. There are people, initiatives, communities that consciously live the opposite. At an astonishingly high level of ethics, clarity, and responsibility. I am not alone in my perceptions. 80% go with the flow, 20% go against it and become strong. Experiments even prove this. This led to a fundamental insight. It is pointless to fight against the darkness. But it is very effective to seek and communicate solutions, to make the light visible, even to those who live in darkness. Perhaps the negative often simply lacks perspective, an idea of how things could be different. Anger is good when it leads me to constructive action. Today, I am no longer motivated by anger, but by joy. Joy in a better world. Joy in strengthening truth, beauty, and humanity. And in advancing concrete projects, together with others. Looking back, I am even grateful to the negative forces. They pulled me out of complacency and comfort. They forced me to take responsibility for my thoughts, my actions, my life. Having a purpose gives my life meaning. To stand up for what is good, beautiful, and sublime. And in doing so, to invest in something greater than short-term power or profit. Perhaps that is precisely the decisive step of our time. Not to believe blindly, not to deny cynically, but to recognize consciously and act accordingly. Because critical thinking is not an attack on society. It is service to our fellow human beings, to the community, love for our fellow human beings. Even if there is headwind, there is also gratitude from more and more people for accompanying them on their journey to a higher level of awakening. What a joy it is to share this together. Everyone has a relative truth. I can accept other points of view. I too have not yet realized everything. It remains exciting.